everybody, I'm Shaq.
And I'm Chris.
And thanks for joining us for another episode of
Let Me Tell You,
where we explore ways to navigate life's transitions and challenges and find motivation to make the necessary changes to live a healthy, full life.
And here's our housekeeping statement. On this podcast, you will hear from social workers, counselors, therapists, and sex coaches. But please remember that we are not your social worker, counselor, therapist, and sex coach. These conversations are for informational purposes only. Please refer to your medical and mental health professional for advice and diagnosis of your specific problem.
And with that being said, let's get into it.
Let me tell you how to deal with unhealthy, prideful people.
Yes. Oh, this is a serious topic.
I feel like every topic is serious. I guess it's as serious as we gonna make it. But this is yet another, question or topic that we got from one of our listeners. They had a question about how to deal with their prideful men. But we're gonna use this for overall any kind of prideful person, whether it's man or woman.
Or they, or them.
Right. So how does your typical prideful How does your typical prideful person come off? They have a difficulty apologizing.
Especially in situations where they know they're wrong.
Especially.
They can be power hungry.
Doesn't open up about fears and failures.
Distorts reality. That sounds like a president we had, but
Distorts reality. Those are the kind of people that they say something and they're going on and on about something. You're just looking at them like, is this person serious?
Mm-hmm.
They really believe with this coming out their mouth?
Yeah.
Like they know that didn't happen, right?
Truth is
I was sitting right here.
Yeah.
And they have a whole nother interpretation of what just went down.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Not wearing the same glasses.
Okay. They have problems trusting people.
They might have low self-esteem.
Always on the defense.
That one is hard. It's like, because you can't talk to people who always feel like they got to defend themselves.
Yeah.
They always have this wall up.
You say so. What you mean? Nothing. I was just saying, no, what you mean by that?
Yes.
I just said you look nice today, so I don't look nice any other day? Wait a minute. Hold up. I gave you a compliment.
Yes. What is happening right now?
What is happening?
Yes.
I'm the bad guy?
Yes. Sees themselves as the victim.
Always the victim.
Always the victim.
Never the hero.
Never the hero.
I just made that up, y'all.
Did you?
The never the hero part. Okay, they may be a perfectionist.
Avoids vulnerability. And a person who will not open up to you, but always is ready for you to open up to them.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, that is not good. It's a one-sided relationship.
One-sided, right. They blame everyone else instead of taking the responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not my fault, it's their fault. Mm-hmm. Oh, I wouldn't have did that if they didn't do this. Oh, I wouldn't have said that if he or she didn't say this. Mm-hmm. Or I wouldn't have gotten in trouble if this person didn't do what they're supposed to do.
The defensive person all the time.
Right.
Never accepts responsibility.
Yeah. And they criticize and judge others a lot. So those are some typical prideful person signs that you might see. Okay? So think about, what are we doing right now? What is happening? What are you pressing? Why you keep pressing buttons?
I was trying to get that off. I'm like, why is that showing?
But you turned it on. Go to restore.
Oh, there we go.
Oh. Okay. Where are we? Oh. Okay. So those are some signs of how you can tell whether or not the person you're dealing with has signs of unhealthy pride. All right. Now let's think about.
I like the way you put that. Unhealthy pride.
Right.
Yeah.
let's think about the why and the how. How do you think this person got this way? And one of the reasons could have been they were driven by poor self-worth and shame.
Listen, shame is what I want to say, shame is like a lioness. Because the lions don't do the work, right? The lionesses are the ones who like go out and
really, they do the hunting.
And I feel like
you watch The Lion King?
Oh yeah, shame does the hunting. Shame is like searching for something that you may feel insecure about, and it heightens it.
Right.
And then there's no coming back from it. It's like your shame, whatever that thing is that you feel insecure about, shame eats it up, and you're unable to sometimes shake or let it get set free from what that thing is that's just holding you down. It's not letting you loose.
Yeah.
I feel like if you suffer with shame, that would be a good place for us to say that you should see a professional, because sometimes it takes that, because some of these things, these shameful things are generational. Right. These things that come up that the mother did it, so the grandmother did it to your mother do it to you, you do it to your kids. Some of these things are generational, and people can't move forward, and they are like really battling being themselves and being set free.
Yeah, and that's definitely something like I agree, Shaq. You definitely should seek some mental health assistance for something like that, because sometimes you need somebody else with you to help you process those things.
Absolutely.
And to work through those things so that maybe you can understand or change your interpretation of what happened, or change your view or perception of it. Because by yourself, you might not be able to pick up anything new, because you've been visiting that same thing in your mind hundreds and hundreds of times.
Oh yeah.
So it's going to be hard for you to see a difference in something when it's staring you in the face.
Oh yeah.
It's 2 inches from your face.
Oh yeah.
You can't really see a problem in totality when you're 2 inches away from it.
Yeah.
But someone else from the outside looking onto your situation or onto your behaviors due to that situation, they can better point out where you might be lacking in certain areas, or where maybe you can see things a little bit differently, or what you can change to maybe help you feel differently about it.
Yeah,
it's all about changing your thinking.
I agree,
because you control how you feel.
Yeah, and sometimes if you have the means to seek help, but sometimes talking to a really good friend and ask them like, hey, what is something you notice about me? Sometimes, like Chris was saying, like having that person from the outside looking in, that just may be a really close friend.
Right.
Not anybody, y'all. Don't go asking everybody that you ever met in your whole entire life. But if you have 2 or 3 really good close friends, even if you only have one really good close friend, you want to just sit down and have a conversation with them and ask them what they see, so that you can do that self-assessment and determine, like, maybe I need help with this.
Right. So how does a person become prideful? Unhealthy pride specifically. So like we just said, driven by self-worth and shame, you feel so badly about yourselves that you compensate by feeling superior. Yeah. You look for other people's flaws as a way to conceal your own, and you relish criticizing others as a defense against recognizing your own shortcomings.
And I feel like that just means manipulation.
Right.
You start to manipulate others to make yourself feel better, to keep them down where they are.
But another way for manipulation, everybody as humans, we do things because we need something. So if someone's manipulating you, or if someone is, someone's manipulating you, what is it that they really need?
Yeah.
Some like people, maybe they need to be seen. They need to be heard. So the only way they feel like they can get that is by manipulation. The only way I feel as if I can get someone to stay in a room with me and talk to me is if I manipulate them to do so. If I make them bad for leaving. But if we go down to the root, what's the root?
I always say this, like the root of every, I think, issue is that people want to be loved, they want to be seen, and they want to be heard.
Right.
And a lot of times, people who have to resolve to manipulating someone else is lacking love.
Right.
I think that's the first thing. The second thing is they've probably been in situations since they were children where they were only seen and not heard. And so they don't have a voice.
Right.
And so in order to have a voice, I have to manipulate you to get you to listen to me, to make you think I'm something more than what I am, just so that I can win your affection, your trust and your love, and I know then they feel like they have a secure relationship. But I promise you, manipulating other people does not equal secure relationships.
It doesn't. Actually, it's probably the opposite.
Oh, absolutely.
So that could be how a person became that way. Poor upbringing, bad previous relationships, the feeling of low self-worth, shame, feeling bad about themselves, all that stuff could,
I said,
all that stuff could add to the reason why someone became a prideful person. But then again, can pride be good?
I think, absolutely. Some pride can be good. Right? Taking pride in who I am as a wife and as a mother is not hurting anyone else.
Right.
But I'm just projecting the fact that I'm doing the best I can and being the best me that I can be for the people that I love and care for.
Right. And I'm not taking away from you to make me feel more important.
Exactly.
So, but instead of saying pride, usually people, what they might mean is self-confidence. That's good.
Yeah.
That's necessary.
Yeah.
It enables you to be successful in life.
Except for James Brown.
What?
I'm black and I'm proud.
Oh. Oh my what?
James Brown is I'm black and I have confidence. I'm black and I'm proud.
Yes. Except for him.
Except for James Brown.
So the opposite of pride is no self-worth or self-confidence, and that's not good.
No,
it's like the spectrum, and one side is pride and one side is not.
Yeah,
and you can't be either of those.
Yeah,
you need to be. Pride is self-confidence via forced perfection, wearing a blind eye to your faults but a microscope to others without showing an ounce of vulnerability.
You might have to say that again.
I'm going to say that again. Pride is self-confidence via forced perfection, wearing a blind eye to your faults, but a microscope to others without showing an ounce of vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
That's a lot right there. Let's just breathe for a second. Let's take a deep breath. Let it out. That's heavy right there.
Yeah.
It's like for me to have pride, I have to make this forced perception of who I am.
Right. Even if you know it's not true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because it's your truth, right?
Hey, truth is relative, right?
It is relative. Like, in your heart that this is not, you're not, but you still need other people to think that you are.
I mean, that I think that's the definition of a con artist.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because con artists push forth a perception to gain people trust so that they can do something wrong to them. Now, being prideful don't mean that you're necessarily trying to steal from a person, but you are.
Right.
You're stealing from a person their trust, their confidence, because otherwise they would not have given it or offered it to you if they knew who you really were.
You're stealing their choice. You didn't give them the ability to really choose.
Yeah.
You chose for them.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I think at the end of the day, people, if they had the courage to show you who they really were, I think they would be likable. But whatever that trauma is that they faced when they were a child, whatever those situations were that convinced them that they had to be this person, whatever those situations that occurred convinced them that they can't be themselves, prevents them from allowing people to know who they truly are. So they don't ever take the chance. So you're only getting to know this made up person, but behind that made up person could be a really sensitive, affectionate type person, a hero type person, a person who cares about the whales and the environment.
Right.
But they're so busy just trying to fight for you to like me and everybody to like me that you never get to know the person underneath. And you're really, at that point, just doing yourself a dishonor because you could be a really lovable person.
Right. You could be. And, you know, there are people like this everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
At home, in your family, at work, on the streets, wherever, you know. But I would like to encourage you guys to, instead of being so angry at these people, realize that they're acting this way because there's some sort of deep hurt in their life. Like at the root, there's something happened. Some trauma happened. Something happened for them to have to become this way. Because really, this is a coping mechanism for them.
Yes, I'm so
This is
glad
how
you
they're
said that.
coping.
That's really good.
And usually, you know, coping mechanisms, I can't speak, coping mechanisms could look like deep breathing. It could look like mindfulness. It could look like all that pretty happy stuff. But it could also look like self-harm. It could look like I'm cutting myself to feel something. It can look like I'm going to be self-loathing. It could be unhealthy pride because something else is wrong deep down. This is superficial. Pride itself, and what that looks like to us, it's superficial. It's not the heart of the problem. So remember that when you're dealing with someone who's that way, remember, you know what, this person must have went through something for them to act this way, because this is not normal.
And you know what, you can set boundaries with that person. If you notice that this person have the tendencies to these things, then you can set boundaries because you have to protect yourself too.
Right.
So recognizing it, not attacking the person, but setting boundaries. And sometimes setting boundaries may mean that you have to get this person out of your life. If they are toxic, you have to get them out of your life. If they are redeemable, which I think all people are redeemable, then it may be worth having a conversation, if that is possible, with a person who has pride, to have a conversation and point out to them the things that you notice and you see, to give an opportunity for forgiveness and change. And then once that is offered and there has been no change, then you have to determine whether you're going to continue a relationship with this person or you're going to have to disconnect from this person.
Right. So all that. And so what can you do to help?
Self-assessment. How are you showing up in a relationship with this person?
And I actually, you know what, Shaq, I'm glad you said that, because I want to bring back something I read when we did the boundaries episode. And that was by the Boundary Boss. Some of you guys might know her, by Terry Cole. And she said this. Excuse me. Not sure if your boundaries are good, bad, loose, or strict? Ask yourself this question. Where are you resentful? If you are the last on your list, if your inner voice is super negative and mean, then you are literally setting the bar for your life and will attract others who agree with that low assessment. And when you feel good about yourself, live self-love. You're setting the bar higher and will attract folks who believe that is how worthy you are. And I want to focus on how you're setting the bar in your own life, in your own mind, for yourself. Because like she said, that is so true. That attracts the people who come to you, the friends you have, the associates you keep. All of that is based upon how you set the bar for yourself.
And it's not cliche. It really is true. I used to hear this when I was a kid. I didn't understand it when they say you attract to you what you are. So it was this example someone gave. It was like, have you ever noticed when you're going to the school, and you're going to schools, and you see all the kids who are kind of like on the outs, and they're all together. And this guy was saying like they picked up their family and they moved, and he said it was a wonder to him how these two kids just beep, 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 like a homing signal, signal to each other, hey, we're the same. Let's be together.
Right.
And he said that they moved to take their son out of that environment, but they moved into a situation where he wound up connecting to one person as opposed to a group of people this time, but one person who had very similar tendencies. And he said it was a wonder to him. And he said it was like a honing signal that, hey, we're like, let's all come together. Let's come together and let's do this thing.
It's like you could take Tarzan out the jungle.
But
Tarzan is he's still
wild.
He's still the wild man.
Yeah.
Whether he's in a jungle or he's in an office building. Because nothing changed in his mind. You just changed his location.
Environment. Yeah.
His environment.
Yeah.
You didn't change his thinking.
No.
So same thing for the man's son.
Yeah.
Your son is the same boy he was in wherever. And when he's in this place, he got the same thinking, the same thoughts, the same mindset, the same everything. What would have benefited him, in my opinion, you should have got him some counseling.
Yeah.
And maybe had them work through why he feels as if this is all he deserves.
Right.
Like, this is the bar. Like, why is this the bar for you? Why do you feel like that's as much as or high or as far you can go? And once that was situated, he could have stayed at the same school and he would have been different.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have to move.
No.
Now, would it not have been easier to get a fresh start? Okay. But at least in that fresh start school, you wouldn't be dealing with the same issues.
Exactly.
So you could take the.
That was good.
Yeah. So yes. So going back to do a self-assessment, like Shaq said, how are you showing up? Are you showing up as someone who lacks confidence and cannot make decisions for yourself?
Yeah, because you know what? If I see a person like that and I'm a manipulator, that's easy target right there.
Easy.
You can't make decisions and you need somebody to make decisions for you. Oh, you don't want your choices. You don't value your choices? Oh, okay. I value your choices.
Yeah.
So let me make your choices for you and make you think you're making the choices.
Yeah.
Convince you of that. Now you're in a situation where you don't even know how you got there.
Don't even know it.
And you're still not even associating the fact that you've allowed this other person to come in and make these decisions for you because they've convinced you that these are your own decisions, your own choices.
Right. And so if you're dealing with a prideful person, are you showing up as someone who lacks confidence? Is it, like Shaq said, is that why they're being drawn to you? Is it something that you need to fix within yourself?
Yeah.
Do you constantly seek approval from your partner, signaling you cannot handle the task in front of you? Are you putting out there, oh, I can't really do it, I only want to? Like Shaq said, are you allowing someone to make your choices?
Yeah, that is tough too, because I feel like sometimes in marriage, you have a tendency sometimes to go that way. Somehow, all of a sudden, all the decisions that you were making before you enter into this partnership was your own. Now you're in this partnership and you're like, does this look good? How my hair look? Now all this, where does insecurity come from? What is that about? Like, how do we just transition from looking in the mirror and liking what we see to now being in this partnership and all of a sudden I'm not sure? What is that about?
What is that about?
I mean, I'm sure we're not only doing it in partnerships and long-term partnerships. We're probably doing it with our friendships. We're probably dealing with it in our other ships. You know what I mean? So it's like you want to be careful. If a person is attracted to you because you seem confident, you don't want it in now in the relationship. But like, I don't know. Do these glasses look right on my face? How is this? No, and when you start setting boundaries real quick and you put those glasses on, they're like, I don't think those look nice. And you go, well, I like them. And you buy them anyway.
Yep.
They notice, okay, something is shifted.
Shifting.
So you You want to exude more of that confidence. You don't want to constantly keep seeking approval. Before you were in this relationship, you were making decisions for yourself.
Right.
You were approving of yourself and your choices for yourself. Mm-hmm. So now, because you're in this partnership, friendship, othership, situationship, doesn't mean now you lose that or you have to hand that over to somebody. No. You stay in control of that, and that's okay.
Right. Do you often hold back how you truly feel about a situation and lash out after there has been a buildup of anger and frustration? Have you made your desires clear? So when handling someone who is prideful, you have to make sure your own stuff is straight.
Yes.
You have to make sure you're not adding to the problem.
Yeah.
You have to make sure that you're not unknowingly drawing these people to you.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially, because that could be part of the problem. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you can change. You can change stuff that has to do with you.
Yes.
You can change yourself, your perception, your views, your whatever.
Yeah.
But you can't change this other person.
Mm-mm.
So,
and I think a good way to assess that is look at the people that are around you.
Right.
How do all the people around you treat you? And better yet, when you're around other people, do they treat them the same way? Because if you're the only one being treated that way, then you really have to go inward and try to figure out what changes you need to make within yourself.
Right. And then the other person may not be aware that they're coming off as a prideful person.
Oh, yeah.
They may not know. They may have had this whole persona, this whole attitude, this whole whatever, their whole life. Mm-hmm. And they don't even know that they're coming off as being unhealthy, prideful type person. Mm-hmm. And you might have to sit down and have a conversation with that person. Mm-hmm. But within that, it could be you, boo.
Hello. It could be you, boo.
You could be perceiving what that other person is saying or doing. You could be perceiving that as pride because you have a low self-worth, low self-confidence of yourself. Mm-hmm. So when someone else is putting themselves first, showing themselves self-love, putting their boundaries in action, you consider that to be prideful and selfish.
Yeah.
Because that's not how you grew up. You grew up as you were supposed to be the sacrificial lamb of the family.
Or the master centerpiece.
Yeah. And you don't understand how, wait a minute, there's another way. Mm-hmm. There's another way. And maybe that looks like pride to you, but maybe it's not.
And we shouldn't feel threatened by other people's ability to set clear boundaries. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't feel threatened by other people's ability to know who they are and exactly what they want and not allow that to project some type of devaluing of ourselves.
Right.
I feel like you should want to be around people who exude where you want to go or who you want to be and who can, who can not imitate so you can imitate what they're doing.
Right.
Like a person who don't know how to cook. If your friend know how to cook and you don't know how to cook, then you want to go to your friend and ask them, hey, how do you make this? Right? So, I mean, I'm not trying to minimize it, but I'm just saying, like, you want to put yourself around people who may have a stronger whatever or position than you do because you recognize this is a weakness in myself and I can learn from you.
Right.
So, and don't be afraid to do that. Like, that's okay. Like, this is how we learn. This is a part of how we learn. Somebody else does it. We watch it, we practice it, and then we take it and we develop it to fit our own personality, our own interests, our own abilities, and where we want to go.
Yeah. And it's okay to advocate for yourself.
Absolutely.
And if that's what that person's doing, that's okay. And it's okay to share with people, especially, people think you can only do this stuff during an interview. You can advocate for yourself. You can promote yourself outside of being in an interview.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes promoting yourself comes off as being prideful.
Yeah.
But,
and we say prideful now, but I feel like back in the day, people used to say conceited. Oh, you're so conceited.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I'm ugly, or because I believe I can do X, Y, and Z, I'm conceited.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not throwing it in your face. I'm just doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it could also be, like we said, how you're perceiving them.
Yeah.
You know, and how you're, at Shakur, you said something about projecting maybe your own insecurities on someone else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that could also be something, or the person could just be really prideful and conceited.
Yes.
All that saying, or they could just be a jerk.
Yes, or they could just be a jerk. Absolutely.
But self-assessing, you know, is important, because maybe it's not.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe it is, but what can I do to make myself feel less of this way?
I definitely feel like if we feel like we're with a person who is exerting some type of toxic pride, then first assessing myself first is important. Mm-hmm. Because if I determine that I want to have a sit down conversation with you, and I want to confront you about this issue, I want to make sure first that it ain't me.
Right.
Like maybe it's just all in my imagination, because then I'm gonna feel like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
If I come to you and it's like, oh, it is me. But so that I'm not put in a situation where you manipulate me into thinking it is me,
right,
I need to do that self-assessing first.
Right.
Check all my boxes off. Talk to 2 or 3 people that I really trust who know me as a person. Like, hey, I have this issue going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really kind of confused about it, but let me just tell you what's happening.
Yeah.
And then allow people who are outside of the situation to peer in for a moment and be able to say, hey, this is what I've always known about you, and this is how I've always known for you to be. So if this is something that is transpiring in your partnership with this person, then you probably should confront them about this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I can go in confidence and say, hey, I feel like you're being extremely prideful and it's hurtful.
Right.
And I can say, and these are the ways that I feel that is hurting me. So we're using those I statements.
Yep.
I feel, and this is the way I believe is hurting me.
Yeah.
So then the person can then hear you clearly without becoming defensive.
Right.
If they're not a defensive person, and be willing to process that with you, mm-hmm. and hopefully you guys are able to come to some type of agreement at the end of that, mm-hmm. and move forward with a more clear direction and better relationship.
Yeah.
Or you determine this is not the partnership for me.
Right.
And that can be scary for some people.
It could be.
You don't want to lose the relationship, so...
Or the time you put into that relationship.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the resources you put in that relationship. The energy, you know, it's a lot starting from scratch.
Yeah.
But if you feel as if you stay, you would lose yourself completely, or you lose your mind completely, then you got to use some of that self-love.
Mm-hmm. Take care of yourself first.
You know, because if you are not good, nobody else is going to be good in the end.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And then you don't want to become the master manipulator.
No.
So, then there's that.
There's that.
That's a heavy one.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like there's so much we can say about this topic of pride. I feel like we hit most of the negative side, but I think that pride on the other end of that, we touched on just a little bit, but I think the biggest walkaways from this conversation is really that self-assessment.
Yeah.
Making sure that you are solidified and strong in who you are as a person, mm-hmm. So that you can rightly identify what's happening with this other person,
right,
in relation to how they deal with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you can address it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for
joining us for another episode. And let me tell you,
thank you for joining us for another episode.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Let Me Tell You with
Shad
and Chris. We will bring you another episode next Wednesday at 7 p.m. To get notifications and to listen to past episodes, please follow and like us on Instagram at lmtu.sc, on Facebook and YouTube at Let Me Tell You. And of course, if you're listening to us on Podbean, make sure to follow us. Lastly, let me tell you to live a healthy and full life.